Okay, we're going to call this meeting at exactly 1 o'clock. Welcome, council. It's nice to see everybody at the table, and we've got two lovely staff members here as well. And I know the rest of them are out there somewhere, so welcome, everyone. Proceedings of this meeting will be recorded and made available on the internet. May we have the clerk conduct the roll?
Thanks. Mayor Clarkson, are you present?
I am.
Deputy Mayor Windover?
Present.
Councillor Armstrong?
Present.
Councillor Franzen?
Present.
Councillor Lamset?
Present.
For staff, Donna Taggart, CAO Treasurer.
Present.
Steve Brockbank, Director of Emergency Services.
Present.
Evan Grieger, Director of Public Works.
Present.
Anne Ruth, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
Sarah Dillamarter, Junior Planner.
Present.
Bianca Dragicevic, Legislative Coordinator, Executive Assistant to the CAO.
Present.
Chastity Robertson, Deputy Treasurer. Is present. And Chelsea Carpenter, Supervisor of Waste Public Works Coordinator, is also on the line. And Jesse Clark, Director of Corporate Services Clerk, is present.
Thank you. You're going to do the land acknowledgement and ask for a moment of reflection. We respectfully acknowledge that Trent Lakes and Peterborough County are located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nation, which include Alderville, Beausoleil, Curve Lake, Georgina Island, Hiawatha, Rama, and Scugog Island First Nations. Trent Lakes respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. We will now take a moment to reflect on these principles and our duties and responsibilities as members of council.
Janet, can I make a comment?
Sure.
Truth and Reconciliation was on the 30th of September, before our council meeting. And in the moment of reflection, I'd like us to reflect on the natives, how they have been treated in the past.
That postscript has been added by Councillor Franzen, and we will keep that in our moment of reflection. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a disclosure of pecuniary interest that may take place now or at any time during the meeting. Hearing and seeing none. We have a motion to approve the agenda, please. Deputy Mayor Windover and Councillor Lambshead, all in favor? Motion is carried. Adoption of the minutes for the regular council meeting of September the 20th. Councillor Franzen, Councillor Armstrong, all in favor? Motion is carried. Business arising out of a previous meeting. John Ewart, Municipal Solicitor, Municipality of Trent Lakes and Duty Mountain Farms Limited Haul Route Agreement. I have a motion. We won't do this until after we see the agreement, right?
John is supposed to be here, but I don't see him on the line yet. I don't know if anyone else is prepared to present this on his behalf, or
Do you want to just hold this for a couple of minutes and move on, or I'll leave the room when this takes place, eh?
perhaps we could defer this until, get a motion to defer until after the staff reports, and we can get staff to try and get in contact with them.
Okay, Councillor Lambshead and Deputy Mayor Windover, all in favor. And that is to delay this until after the
Staff reports.
staff reports. Committees and boards. Bob Taylor Vasey, Chair Parks and Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee. Terms of reference review. We'll now take a presentation from Bob, Chair of the Parks, Recreation and Cultural Committee. Unmute your audio, share your camera, and you will have 10 minutes, please. If council would hold their questions till the end, that would be appreciated. Are you there, Mr. Vasey?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but you can't see me.
No, but we know you're there.
There you go. Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, and good afternoon to members of council and staff and attendants and the virtual gallery. This is the last presentation, the 12th, if you believe it, that PRCAC will give to this council. And on behalf of my advisory committee, let me thank members of council as well as our staff for their patience and support of our efforts over the last 4 years. This presentation focuses on the future of the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Advisory Committee, and by extension to any advisory committee or board or regular council committee. We will be direct in our comments because we feel that there are changes that need to be considered in making advisory committees more equipped to be successful. Next slide. As you will remember, in June, we had completed a situation appraisal of what worked and what did not work over our term. And we committed to returning to you with ideas, concepts, and recommendations. And in addition, council agreed that the existing advisory committee should continue until January 2023 to maintain continuity between this version and the next. Next slide. We're going to address 3 aspects of the terms of reference of the advisory committee, this advisory committee: mandate, scope, and objectives. This is based on our learnings over 4 years and also recent developments at both county, provincial, and federal jurisdictional levels. The next 2 are sort of integrated. Composition of the advisory committee, not council, advisory committee, and the advisory committee selection process. And in a nutshell, changes to both should be considered. Next slide. In our opinion, both the mandate and the scope could continue as is, although council's review of its strategic priorities might alter one or both. This is the principal reason that we think it is important that at least one member of each advisory committee be part of that priority review. This simply acknowledges that the committees provide a valuable advice and that the process is inclusive and ongoing. Next slide. There are a number of objectives that we felt should remain as is. So let's turn our focus to potential revisions and additions. And the first objective is it's a wording change. This change reflects the reality that an advisory committee's role is to advise, not to operationalize. An advisory committee can recommend communication initiatives based on demonstrated and validated needs, but its responsibilities stop there. In other words, communication falls within the jurisdiction of staff, and PRCAC can only suggest use or modifications of existing tools. Next slide. This is the first new objective. I'll read it. To develop on an annual basis an annual work plan, including financial and budgetary considerations. This recommendation reflects the efforts of the clerk's office, supported by council, to require both work plan and budgetary implications of its advisory committees, not to mention community halls, police services, and library services boards. It should be seen as a given that this is an expectation of an advisory committee, and it should also be noted that this activity was not in the first terms of reference, but was established as a work plan component subsequently. Next step, next slide. The next proposed objective deals with training. In 2022, staff developed recently in 2022, staff developed a comprehensive and workable volunteer management plan policy. Although advisory committees fall outside of the scope of this policy, still we were consulted. And to the credit of staff, specifically Donna and Bianca, our recommendations for improvements were welcomed and by and large adjusted into the policy. This recommendation simply enforces the need for the terms of reference for an advisory committee whether it is within the scope of the policy or not, to recognize the need for committee member training in the future as appropriate. It continues to be problematic whether advisory committees should be excluded from the policy, but what is not problematic is the need to acknowledge this requirement in light of the municipality's legitimate concern for potential insurance liabilities for any of its volunteers. Next slide. The next two are very important. One is to monitor the implementation of the County Peterborough Active Transportation Plan. As everyone here will remember, that was a fairly significant issue to be addressed at the All Candidates meeting last night. This plan did not exist until the third year of our current term, and there is a need to ensure that the interests of residents and property owners of Trent Lakes are reflected as this plan is implemented. Next slide. And the second one is to monitor the implementation of the Trent 7 Waterway Master Plan in collaboration with the Economic Development Advisory Committee. This plan also did not exist until the third, almost the fourth year of our current term. And again, there's a need to ensure that interests of residents of Trent Lakes are reflected, but as an integrated effort with EDAC. Next slide. This next objective, to develop for presentation to council a health and wellness strategy that engages and embraces the needs of seniors and youth. The PRCAC surveys showed without doubt the need to develop programs to engage youth and seniors, and health and wellness is one of the foundations of the Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan. The municipality currently has successful programs for both age groups, both at community halls and the BCC, but it's not enough. And the PRCAC initiative for a community hub network based in part on a health and wellness strategy may be one answer. Next slide. The next three deal with the composition of the advisory committee. And the first is that PRCAC have one member as liaison with the Economic Development Advisory Committee, and reciprocally an EDAC liaison to PRCAC. The lines of responsibility between the two existing advisory committees, where there was overlap, were never reconciled. This can change through council oversight to ensure alignment with each committee's objectives and effective collaboration. And cultural tourism is an example of an area where this could be improved. Next slide. These next two issues are about vacancies on the advisory committee. This recommendation is that in the case of a vacancy midterm, the chair of the advisory committee should be a member of the search committee. Currently, the chair of an advisory committee is only informed of any replacement after the selection, and the advisory committee has no input into the selection of the best candidate. For the Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee, the absence of input from the committee on the selection of replacement members was a lost opportunity to build the best team possible by including the whole team in the process. This also helps to ensure that choices are viewed as transparent and based on candidate qualifications. Next slide. And finally, this is our proposed recommendation to strengthen the application process. This recommendation is a revision of the existing terms. It reads, consideration will be given to citizen members who demonstrate both a diversity of experience, knowledge, and disciplines related to culture, waterfront and trails, and parks and recreation, and to the degree possible, the following skills: project management, financial planning, and proven subject matter expertise. The application process asks, why do you want to be on this committee? But it could also ask, what will you bring to the committee to help it achieve its goals? Advisory committee members should be planners, not doers. It is clear in the terms of reference. It is simply, if you want to plan and depend on an advisory committee to recommend you a plan of action, have the people on that committee with the skills to give you what you want. Next slide. So just to recap, along with the consistent linkage to the master plan, the Parks, Recreation, Culture Master Plan, via work plans and budgetary considerations, composition of committees is critical. Selecting the best candidates from our untapped pool of local talent will elevate the work of the committees and make the work more attractive to the best possible candidates in the future. We hope that the current PRCAC has moved the needle in this direction. Next slide. So this concludes our deputation. Now, although further discussion will obviously take place in January with the new council, nonetheless, we encourage council to endorse our recommendations. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best.
Okay, council, the good presentation, Bob. Thank you very much. Have we got questions from council? Bob, I have one. My understanding is one of your loves is in historical documentation, that sort of thing. And there are a group of people now who are actively looking at taking the old school. It's up on 36 and actually trying to develop it into a historical society building. The people who are in Galway are mainly Barb Kane and her group are more than interested in coming down and helping with that. Where does Parks and Rec sit on an advisory committee as far as historical? We are fast losing the memory and the capability of even knowing where our historical artifacts are. And I think our day-to-day trails and that sort of thing, I think it's important, but I think they're going to be there. I think our historical documentation and memory is not.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right, Madam Mayor. I agree with you. I will remind council that in the PRC master plan, heritage preservation was a key component. And so we will be meeting a week Thursday. And one of the items on the agenda I've asked Ann to put is I won't call it our work plans for 2023 because we won't be there, but we will certainly be there in the interim period between now and then in January. And that's one of the items that we have to come wrestle to the ground. As you know, it's extremely complicated. Whether it's heritage designations, which is a very long and expensive process, whether we're trying to locate archival records in the township. And as you may remember, that is one of the things that I was intending to do in the fall, to canvass every legal entity producing records of any kind, families, it didn't matter who it is, and create a comprehensive list of what exists. Then for sure we will know what we have and probably face the reality that we wish that we had more. So it's on my radar screen. It's on the committee's radar screen. So I would hope that at the first or second meeting of council in January, we can come to the council with a more defined plan.
Just in one follow-up to that, the Greater Harvey Historical Society, which operates out of Galway and also the train station, can we not come under that same umbrella and being able to shortcut a lot of the rest of these in terms of starting over again? Can it not be a satellite?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they have the expertise. If you were to talk to the expert in the area of heritage designation on staff, which is Adele, she would tell you that it is a very difficult, complicated process that requires, to some degree, two things: academic research, and also I hate to say it, but sometimes the need to bring in consultants to assist. I think it will come back to council with a reasonable plan that would obviously include GHHS as a component of the plan.
Thank you. Anybody else? We have a motion to accept this delegation. Deputy Mayor Windower and Councilor Armstrong.
I was just going to ask if the motion is to receive and to support the recommendations of
sure,
this
yeah.
report.
Jesse?
Yeah. Very much so, Bob.
Perhaps I could
Yes.
offer a friendly amendment to that, and perhaps that council could direct staff to consider the recommendations presented in this terms of reference review in their committee structure.
And you okay with that?
I'm fine with
All
that.
in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Has Mr. Ewart shown up yet?
No, we will revisit him at the end of the staff report, so I'll give you a nudge.
All right. So, council, have we any reports from economic development? We've just had the one from the Parks and Rec, Police Services Board, or Library Board. Statutory public meeting,
Madam
none.
Mayor?
Business arising? Yes.
Sorry, I don't know if this is the place, but I was just curious about county council last time around. There were a couple of things that I think were pertinent to Trent Lakes. The active transportation report, the letter from Oak Orchard, and also the letter from MMAH, which was suspending the 90-day, 120-day timeline for approval of the official plan. So I just wondered if there was any outcomes that we should know about.
The only outcome that came was that the county would not forgive the, they said that was, and the other ones were, that was the main one. I do have a note on one of the other ones. I'll have to look. What were the three questions?
The second one was, they were just presenting the transportation master plan. Just wanted to make sure there was nothing in there that would impact us. And the third thing was just that Steve Clark had announced he would not be approving the official plan within the 120-day timeline, and wondered if we had any sense of how long that would take.
None.
No, so we're completely
And
at their mercy.
everybody asked the same question and no.
Okay.
But the main one was the forgiving of the, and they said no.
Thank you.
And they were not particularly happy that we had done what we did because we had set a precedent doing what we had done. Okay. Presentations, delegations, staff reports, and public works. Recreation and facilities. Fire and emergency services. Mr. Brockbank, Director of Emergency Services, Fire Prevention Training Officer position.
Yes, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Before you have a recommendation for moving forward with a replacing our fire prevention position, but splitting that past position into two and making it a prevention staff member as well as a training staff member. If there's any questions with regards to this, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'm looking at council for questions. So Steve, is all of the differences that's required by the government in training, I mean, is that what's leading up to this?
Yes, and in the report, Madam Mayor, we're getting busier every year, and I believe if we don't get ahead of it or at least stay with it, we will be behind, and I don't want that for our department, let alone the municipality and the ratepayers. So there's quite a bit of work to be done moving forward, and I think just coming out of COVID now is a great opportunity, especially with the new training and regulations and whatnot, that mandatory certification portion.
Because it doesn't look like there's going to be any relief from that, does there?
I do not believe so as of today. They've threatened us with a grant, but it works out to be very, very minimal. It might buy us a few books if we're lucky. So, and the call demand, the call for service today is greater. We're at 420 calls to date. So that's 25 more than we ran this time last year. 35, 40 more than we ran this time year before last, which was one of our busiest years on record. So
Are you having any repercussions on the opioid?
that has slowed down. We do have more calls pertaining to that type of situation, especially in the summer months. We do have a transient population that tends to bring some of that entertainment with them. So we do experience our fair share of it for sure.
Steve, is there any move, and this is probably a budget decision which wouldn't take place till later anyway, to negotiate with the county for some relief from ambulance when you guys are doing so much work that the ambulances would do if we didn't have the fire routes?
At this time, Madam Mayor, we've not had those conversations, but that is definitely something we're willing to entertain. But as you know, everybody has their hand in the pot, and there's not enough to go around as to date. So I would definitely entertain having that conversation, but I haven't to date.
Okay. I would make a suggestion that the new council pursue that, because I certainly have at county on numerous occasions, but needs to be backed up with information that would come from your department. Anyway, Ron.
Did you by any chance, Steve, see the W5 report the other day?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I did, Deputy Mayor Wendover. I do not have a report on that particular program at this time, but I will definitely have something coming forward. We're just in the process of reviewing our community risk assessment that I have back in draft now. So
Okay,
I will leave it at that today. That's okay.
Okay, so can we have a motion, or if there's, is this a motion or?
Oh.
I didn't speed you up there, did I?
Nope. Just a comment. First, I commend our fire chief for coming forward, because certainly with the increased demand we have on all of our services, we need to get out in front of them. So good on you for bringing this forward to council. Certainly support it. So I make the motion to receive the report for information and go further and support our CAO with her delegated power to proceed.
Should we recognize that the CEO treasurer will be using her powers?
As opposed to supporting. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, would you like to add something to this?
No, I just want to
Today.
second the motion.
Okay. Don, are you happy with this being thrown to you?
Through you, yes, I am.
Yeah, it's in the report, and I didn't have to, but I thought it was important that we at least acknowledge that you will be moving forward with this under your delegated power.
Yeah.
And Jesse had the better words to describe that.
All in favor? That motion is carried. Planning and Building, Sarah Delameter, Junior Planner, application for hold removal from Johnson.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. On today's agenda, there is a memo in relation to the removal of the holding provision on the property known municipally as 375 Fire Route 345. In January of 2021, Council passed a zoning bylaw amendment 2021-008 to authorize a dock and in-water boathouse. The subject lands were rezoned from shoreline residential private access to shoreline residential private access exception 74 with a holding provision, which required the owner to acquire the original shore road allowance and enter into a site plan agreement with the municipality. As the owner has now fulfilled both conditions, it is recommended that council receives the report from the junior planner and that the council approves the attached bylaw to remove the holding provision established by bylaw B 2021-008. Thank you.
Thank you. If we have a motion for that. Deputy Mayor Wendover and Councillor Limeshead, all in favor. Motion is carried. You're on again, my dear. Consent application B 10722.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. On today's agenda, there is a municipal appraisal form for consent file B-107-22 submitted by Pat and Ruth Baranowski. The subject land is located at 140 Fire Route 103. The application conforms to the official plan as the proposed residential use is a continuation of the currently existing land uses. As shown on the wetland maps provided, this severed lot consists of a lot of unevaluated wetlands. As the benefiting lot is currently vacant and is expected to be developed in the future, an EIS is required to confirm the areas of the resultant lot that should be zoned environmental protection. Staff have reviewed the application and recommend that council supports the proposed severance with the following conditions. 1, a rezoning of the severed parcel be undertaken to the satisfaction of the municipality. 2, that the solicitor for the applicant provides an undertaking in writing which confirms that the lands are being conveyed to an abutting property owner and a merger of title shall take place. And 3, the applicant undertakes an EIS and subsequent zoning bylaw amendment to areas confirmed by the environmental impact study as environmental protection areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we have a motion for that, please?
Support that as recommended.
Okay, Councillor Lambshead and Deputy Mayor Windor, all in favor. Motion is carried. Finance, Chastity Robertson, Deputy Treasurer, Manual Benefit Plan Renewal.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, this report is for the renewal of the Manulife Benefit Plan. This annual renewal was negotiated on behalf of the municipality by Mosey & Mosey under the Peterborough Countywide Plan. The premium change for Trent Lakes will result in an overall increase of 11.9%. Staff are recommending that council approve the Manulife Employee Group Benefit Renewal effective November 1st, 2022.
Chastity, is that a per year? 11% per year
For this year, yes.
for the year? Comment?
Yeah, question. Thank you, too, Madam Mayor. Chastity, you may not be able to comment on this, but I was just curious about the large increase in dental benefits. It was proposed at 31.6%, negotiated down to 26%. If that's due to individual claims, then obviously you can't comment on it, but just wondered if you had any feedback.
They base it, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, they base it on the overall use under the countywide plan, but then also they incorporate how much the municipality uses it. That's basically all I could say on that. I can't break it down that much further, but it is based on the usage.
Okay, thank you.
Chastity, when council are on for a 4-year period, is there no way that they should not be included in something like dental for that period of time?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure really how to answer that. I would have to refer to Donna for that answer.
Thank you, through you. So the structure of the current plan with Manulife is benefit cease at age 65, and they are for full-time staff only. So there wouldn't be an allowable portion for council. We do have some part-time transfer station because they don't qualify. We do give them a % in lieu of benefits, but yes, there is an age restriction and it has to be a full-time person.
So Dylan's part-time staff, are they?
So through you, so the summer students aren't covered for benefits.
Okay.
It
So
would
it's
only be
full-time.
full-time.
Well, it's good that the attendants get some benefit. Yes, Peter?
Staff that would exceed 65 would not be covered?
Through you, that's correct. Yes, after 65, they aren't covered. So they are still covered for our EAP program, but not for dental and health benefits and that type.
So just about the time you start falling apart, they take you off.
Somehow I don't understand that. If we have staff that are working that are over 65 years old, I think that they should be covered for dental. They should receive the same benefits as younger staff. Because I assume we have at least one contract worker that would be over 65 years old.
So through you, yes, we have had staff working here that are over 65 and are no longer covered, but that's the plan in itself. So there is no coverage for that. But yeah, unfortunately.
Well, for the bulk of it, with the exception of dental, the government picks up a lot of it anyway. Okay, so we need a motion for this. Councillor Armstrong,
Motion to receive the report and to approve the annual renewal.
seconder, Deputy Mayor Windover, all in favor? Motion is carried. Donna, dedicated mechanics facility. That's a song,
Thank
isn't
you,
it?
no pressure. So thank you, and through you, Mayor Clarkson. So before you is the follow-up report relating to the build of the dedicated mechanic facility. And this was requested at the special council meeting, July the 27th of 2022. So the 2022 budget included an amount of $7.8 million for the build of the dedicated mechanic facility at the 49 site. The building size of 17,250 square feet was approved by council through recommendations provided by the facility working group and subsequent direction to move the Recreation and Facilities Department into the new build. So in July of 2022, the engineering consultant for the build provided an updated budget of between 8.1 and 12.2 million. And this increase was based on market increases, but also site work for water servicing for fire, and the addition of a noise barrier wall, which was not included in the original budget. So the report summarizes some of the opportunities and challenges. This, was a joint discussion with staff, and some options for reducing costs. So we have provided 4 options for you. And those include keeping the building footprint at 17,250 square feet in line with what was identified for operations required by the 2 departments, and include the crane, and delay the replacement of the sand dome and investigate the actual costs for the fire water servicing. I should mention that there have been discussions that those costs are inflated, so investigate those costs. We could also keep the building size at the 17,250 square feet and design for the addition of a crane in the future, and still delay the replacement of the sand dome and investigate the water servicing costs. We could direct the engineering consultant to provide the cost savings in keeping the building size at 17,250 square feet, but removing the crane entirely from the design. We could direct the engineering consultant to provide cost savings in reducing the size of the building by 2 bays and removing the crane from the design. And staff are also recommending tendering for a structural review of the current 49 depot, and that those costs be included in the 2023 budget. So these are options that we have considered as staff, and we will be bringing these to the December 5th budget meeting with the new council.
questions, comments?
Yeah, I'll start with the comment. First of all, I appreciate staff looking at different alternative ways that we could bring the cost of this down. I think everyone on council is disappointed that this project has been delayed. It was on the books for 2022. We were hopeful that that would get started this summer. However, understand that supply chain issues, market conditions delayed it. And certainly we're all shocked at the increase in the cost estimate. Having said that, it is what it is. And I think that you've identified the 4 primary alternatives that can be considered. And we will have to move this forward to the next council for consideration. So I guess I would make the motion. We'll probably have more comments, but I'll put the motion on the floor that we receive the report for information.
Anyone else comment?
Just a comment, I do like option 4 of reducing it by 2 bays and taking the crane out. I mean, if needed in the future, we can always add on.
If that was one of the options that were entertained, there is no reason you couldn't build it to add on in the future if it's still needed.
Yep.
Those are simple things to do in the design phase. it's difficult to do once you started. Now's the time if you're going to ever do it.
Certainly is.
I guess for myself, I go back to where we were 4 years ago, because this is where we were. And we started a committee to determine whether or not we would have 3 units, 1 unit, whatever we're going to have. And we settled with a really good alternative, which was sections in the 3 areas plus the major one at 49. And then somehow 49 grew and grew and grew. And once Parks and Rec came in my mind, we were creating washrooms and kitchen facilities and office space. But as far as storage of all of this material, I thought that if we could make the other building work, we were going to use that. Because the cost of $50,000, $60,000, $75,000 to get that kind of space made perfect sense. A pickup truck does not have to be where it's warm.
No.
You don't go anywhere in the country and see vehicles kept inside. The snow plows that freeze up, the fire trucks that freeze up, absolutely. But the day-to-day operations of trucks that run around, they do not have to be kept in a space that's warm. So I think going back to the drawing board, the new council needs to take another look at this and just determine whether or not what we've wound up with here is what we actually were looking for. And as far as all of the cost increase are concerned, we probably haven't lost a lot there because things are starting to go back down. They can only hit those peaks for so long because the materials that are coming in from Quebec and out west are considerably lower. So Ontario is starting to understand that if they don't start to price within the market, their product doesn't have to be sold. So I think that bump, whether we go back to where we were pre-bump or not remains to be seen. But I don't think that high is going to be maintained. I don't think it can be maintained. So my recommendation would be take a good, real serious look at this from the new council, not be held to anything that is done so far. Take it back to the drawing board, get a new set of eyes on it, and move forward. Yes.
I'd like to second the motion. I'd like to make sure that this report goes to the new council on the 5th of December so they can review this report. I think it's a well done report.
It's a starting group.
Yep.
Donna?
Thank you, and through you. Just to clarify, the size of this building, when we added the Recreation and Facilities Department, never included pickup trucks being parked inside for that department. That was never the case.
How did the space get?
So the only space that increased was what's considered the ancillary space. So for offices, that type of area, but there was no increase for recreation and facilities in order to park trucks inside. That was the direction of council right from the beginning. They didn't want that.
So then where's the 30% increase when they went in?
30% is the market right now. Is that what you mean, the
No,
tendering cost?
I thought the size went up by 30%.
I'm not sure the 30% size. Then the size is the size that was identified by council through the working group. It's the same size. It was the ancillary space increased.
And
So
how
the
much was that, do you remember?
I don't know the actual square footage for that,
Because
but Chelsea
I thought
might.
the percentage was in there somewhere.
There was, I do speak in the report to a 30 to 50% increase in the cost per square foot based on
Okay.
tendering.
Okay, so it wasn't the size, it was based on the
It's based on the cost
increase
to
in
tender
cost.
that other municipalities have found when they go to tender for anything.
Okay.
We have found here as well. So just to clear, I didn't want it out there that we were looking to do that. That was never
Okay,
the intention.
that's good.
But that was a request from Dylan several times that he wanted the vehicles to be parked inside so they could do the walk around. The last report that we got from him, and we've received reports or requests earlier from Dylan about having all of the vehicles plus the trailer inside.
Donna?
Thank you, and through you, that's absolutely correct. That has been a request along the way, but that was determined that that was
Okay.
not supported by council on that.
Okay.
Well, we've cleared up some things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what you're saying, Peter, is you would like to have this report go to the new council?
Yeah.
And
for the-
any other decisions would also go forward.
Yep, and I would accept that as an amendment.
Okay,
So receive this report and ensure that this report is presented to the council, next council, at the December 5th meeting.
seconder? All in favor? That was definitely. Okay, Donna, electronic monitoring. Is that an AHO cup?
Not quite. So thank you and through you. So there's a requirement from the province under amendments to the Employment Standards Act, effective April the 11th, 2022, that an employer that has more than 25 employees has to have a written policy on electronic monitoring. And this has to be given to staff by October 11th of 2022. So there's a policy before you today that was prepared in consultation with SHRP. I can say that we were requesting a slight amendment to the beginning of the policy, and I'll speak to that in a moment. But the purpose of the policy is to make sure staff are aware of when they could be monitored, not that they necessarily are, but it has to be in written format when they could be monitored. And for Trent Lakes, it would be things like the GPS units in vehicles, employee emails and websites visited potentially, video surveillance at some of our facility, and the fob usage to access premises. So the changes today that I'm requesting, there's an addition, and Ann's kind enough to put that up for us there. So we would look to add that as an organization, we value and trust our staff. We also support transparency and believe employees deserve to know when and how their work may be reviewed when using our information systems. And with that in mind, the provincial government has mandated that employers create written policies that confirm these priorities. And as an employer, we have introduced this policy to comply with that legislative requirement. So the remainder of that request for the resolution of council is as on the screen. So just accept it for information, and that the purpose of the policy 1.09 is amended based on that revision, and that the policy be adopted and distributed to staff.
Questions? Donna, early on, we talked about modernizing the GPS system in vehicles. Did that get done?
Thank you and through you. Yes, there was a budget this year for Trackmatics, and they're in all vehicles for public works.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then this plan that you're talking about here too, that also would help in terms of legals, because legally people would know they could use this documentation if they had to prove certain things.
So thank you and through you. It is something that we could use already. This policy is to let staff know that they are potentially being tracked, I guess is the word, in the workplace. And it's just to formalize that.
Good idea. Okay, have we got a seconder or a comment?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
As recommended. We approve electronic policy 1.09. As, that's it. Be adopted as amended, and further that council direct staff to distribute the policy to all staff by October the 11th as mandated by the provincial government.
okay, a seconder? Councilor Franson, one
Yeah.
second. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Donna. Yes.
Sorry. There's no reports on corporate services, and
So
then we
we're
do
going
have
back?
John, you were, on the
Okay.
line.
Did he wake up from his nap? This is a story. You're in the chair.
Okay. The business arising out of the previous meeting, John, you're in, John?
Muted.
Can't hear you, John.
There we are. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and good afternoon, Council. So my attendance this afternoon, Deputy Mayor and Council, is with respect to a letter report provided to the municipality October 4th, 2022. And this pertains to the proposed haul route involving Dooney Mountain Farms Limited Quarry. And part of my task in looking at this was to look at a draft haul route agreement that was submitted by the proponent. And my comments are set out in the correspondence. For the most part, the document itself is sufficient as indicated to form and content. There are some minor amendments that will need to be made, as well as additional information to be provided. Much of the agreement itself will be subject to engineering to ensure that whatever work is carried out will be of a standard suitable to the municipality, in particular municipal engineering. It's the location of the works that forms the bulk of my report to Council. And Council may recall that the proposed haul route agreement proposes 5 distinct segments as to how the haul route will indeed be approved. And again, there's information contained in the agreement itself as to the nature of the work that will be the subject of each of those 5 segments. The overall comment with respect to that portion of the agreement was it would be a benefit if somehow a mapping could be provided so it could be clearly identified as to where the 5 segments are situated and the work that will then be carried out to those 5 segments. Primarily, the concern with this area of the agreement is as it pertains to the forced road. And Council may recall the forced road segment is that portion of Ledge Road where it leaves the road allowance formally and goes off to the left, or to the west, I guess, and back up to north. And it's that area that's of concern to myself, because the forced road, if that is indeed a forced road, which I believe it to be, it's been under the jurisdiction of the municipality since December 31st, 2002, it's the width of the road that's of concern, because the forced road, as measured by municipal staff just recently, would indicate that the various segments of that forced road segment, the road itself has a maximum width, that is the forced road, of somewhere between 24 to 25 feet. And that, I don't know whether that would be sufficient in order to allow for traffic to large aggregate trucks primarily to make use of that road allowance in that area. Okay, it's not a road allowance, it's the forced road. And that's sort of the focus, if you will, of the report primarily. The problem is that we don't have any survey that would clearly identify what the width actually is. There were these casual measurements taken. And again, I appreciate the work done by municipal staff, but again, that area of the segment of the road, the haul route, will definitely need to be surveyed. But more importantly, it's need to understand how wide the actual forced road is. And I go to some detail in the correspondence, Deputy Mayor, in terms of explaining how forced roads are usually interpreted. And they're usually the carriage path. Forced roads, by their very nature, take no distinct or set path. They're usually the path of least resistance from a topographical challenge. But it's the width of the road that's of concern. It's not, to my understanding, it's not a full 66-foot width. Now, I may be subject to correction on that, but in order to establish the width of that road beyond the 25 feet being the maximum distance or width measured by staff, that would require that the municipality since, but rather before, primarily before December 31st, 2002, was using 20 feet on either side of the carriage path approximately to get to a 66-foot road allowance width, because it doesn't, the forced road is not situated on a road allowance. And that's information which I'll need to hopefully obtain from the municipality, from Public Works, to have an understanding as to how far off the carriage path was maintenance being carried out in support of the use of that area of the forced road. And that's significant, because if that width is less than 66 feet, maybe 40 feet. I don't know what it'll be. It certainly will have to take into account when the haul route is designed to factor in that the maximum width of that forced road is the 25 feet carriage path plus whatever on the other side, and coming up to what the width was. And that's obviously information that's evidentiary through use of public works, through maintenance that's been carried out historically by the municipality, and primarily prior to December 31st, 2002. And the significance of that, of course, is that as of January 1st, 2003, the Municipal Act 2001 came into effect, and Section 26, as I outlined in my correspondence, identifies that any highway that was in existence as of that date, that is January 1st, 2003, carries on as a public highway. But for this particular segment of the haul route, it is very, very important to determine and to ascertain and define specifically what the carriage path is and how much width beyond the carriage path was being maintained by the municipality in order to determine what the actual width of that area of the haul route, which will be comprised of the forest road, is actually consisting of. And that's sort of what I've tried to outline in my correspondence, and of course the various options available to the municipality if more area is required or more width is required. And I've gone through that in the correspondence as well. It includes negotiating with any private property owner, court application if need be, to have a declaration that the road is of a certain width due to maintenance in dedication. And then lastly, expropriation if required. And again, I didn't go into a lot of detail in the expropriation process. That's a subject in and unto itself, but it is of course governed by the Expropriations Act, and it would be beyond the scope of my reporting letter to council as to how the expropriation process works in the province of Ontario. So subject to any questions that council may have, Deputy Mayor, that is the substance of my report, and the focus, of course, being that area or that segment of the haul route comprised of the forest road under the jurisdiction of the municipality.
Thank you, John. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, John. This file is 10 or 12 years old. Why is it that we've just found out now about the forest road? Somebody must have known about this quite a while ago. I mean, this changes the whole context of what we're dealing with.
Well, through you, Deputy Mayor. Well, the issue of the width of the forest road would certainly have been known as to what the carriage path was, Councillor. It's more how much of the carriage path or how much width is actually required for the safe passage of vehicles. And it's only when that became the subject of the haul route agreement, knowing that the forest road is of a certain width, and not knowing how much maintenance or how wide the actual forest road is, that's when it became the subject or the focus of inquiry to determine exactly what that was. So to answer your question directly, yes, the forest road was always seen as part of the haul route, but the significance was how much or can traffic be accommodated within the forest road, which prompted the inquiry.
I don't know how much other councillors knew, but I had no idea that this haul route was on a forest road.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the haul route was being proposed to be situated within the road allowance. It's only where the road or the path up Ledge Road deviates off the road allowance that the issue of the forest road comes into play.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. To Deputy Mayor. John, I appreciate the depth and detail of information that's in here, so thank you for that. I do want to build on Councillor Franzen's question there. And this haul route agreement was first drafted 6 years ago, not sure, but it was before this council. Had the work been done at that time to determine whether the proposed route could be accommodated for its full width to allow for truck traffic, we wouldn't be 6 years later even discussing it. So I'm equally disappointed, I guess, and a little bit surprised that this is the first time this council is hearing that it is a forced road, and that's an issue. And if it had been an issue 6 years ago, which it obviously was, then why have we continued along this path of further work and engineering, et cetera, to design a road that can't currently be accommodated by the space available? I just don't understand.
Through Deputy, and perhaps if I can just elaborate, I don't know whether the current carriage path together with the area of the maintenance having been carried out by the municipality is sufficient to allow for the safe passage of the traffic on that road. That'll be, of course, the subject of engineering. But the indeterminate factor, of course, is how much maintenance has been carried out. And it's only then can we then put a width or number to the width of the road itself, and whether or not the route can still be designed to safely accommodate traffic within the confines of which we're going to have to work under. But right now, the width of that road itself, it may be 66 feet, it may be maybe 40 feet. All we know for sure is the carriage path is there, and subject to further investigation as to whether or not it goes beyond the carriage path, or what we understand to be 25 feet in width, and that can be used to safely accommodate the haul route. That needs to be further investigated through traffic engineering, for example.
Just one final comment, and then I'll leave it. But I don't understand why that survey wasn't done, or that history wasn't determined 6 years ago, or whenever the first draft hauler agreement was presented to the municipality. I mean, whose job was it to do the due diligence on this to see if it even could be accommodated?
Well, through you, Deputy Mayor, it's more the type of vehicle that will be used, the ability to allow for the safe passage. It's only as the haul route agreement itself is being looked into and concerns of traffic safety being identified, particularly in that area. Because at that point in time, the passage over the original road allowance itself, I think, is impassable in that area. So therefore, it has to follow the carriage path or the forced road aspect of it. And in terms of investigating, of course, it's at this point that we need to look into it to assure that if that is where the haul route's going to go, and not knowing exactly how much width we have, Councillor, we have to ascertain that. Can traffic safely pass within 45 feet, for example, of width? I don't know that, but that's something that the traffic engineers will need to confirm.
Any questions?
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor. I think it's vitally important to exactly know what that carriageway exists right now, and what it existed on December 31st of 2002, so that we know what we're dealing with. I mean, we're talking ifs and ands, and we need to be talking with data and information. So I think it's vitally important that we know what the exact dimensions of that entire deviated part of Ledge Road.
Oh, I through you, Deputy Mayor, I agree completely. We need to know exactly the surveyed width, and we need to know what beyond that was used by the municipality during the course of its maintenance or use of the road by the traveling public. These are important things to understand, but can only be understood. And there may not be evidence to even support that. I don't know. But again, we need to know what is the minimum that can safely accommodate traffic on that road. But the survey will definitely need to be carried out, and of course that'll be rest to the proponent to demonstrate that that area of forced road can be safely used through either traffic consultant, and again through the survey, and again through, unfortunately or fortunately, evidence of the municipality to say that yes, we've maintained it beyond that certain width. And these are, in some degrees, it's almost anecdotal evidence in the sense that there may be records of how far the municipality has gone into the shouldering of the road, the brushing of the road, things of that nature. But that'll certainly need to be flushed out before any agreement can be signed.
Just a final comment. I think it's pretty disappointing that on two major issues that were under the portfolio of this council, one, the dedicated mechanics facility, and the Duty Mountain application, we're getting surprises at the last minute. We had a quote for the facility that came in June, even though we had the budget for it for this year, and surprised us by about $4 million. And this application, which we have been dealing with for 2 years, at the last minute, we are now finding out that there's a question about whether the haul route can even go where it's been proposed and engineered and drafted and all of that. So it's just a comment that I'm, again, sorry. It's just awfully disappointing that this late in the game, we have to defer a major project, 2 major projects, the facility at 49 and the Dewdney Mountain application. I know there's nothing we can do about it now. It's done. We need to move forward. The new council will have to deal with it. But I do want to just, for the record, express some real disappointment that, we're in this situation.
Thank you, Janet. Carol?
I have one further question. What obligation is the municipality under if the road is undersized to purchase or expropriate that additional land, John?
Through you, Deputy, none. There's no obligation for the municipality to expand that road to accommodate a haul route. Council may decide it wishes to do so in order to facilitate the quarry or the operation. But if that area of the road can't be safely used, there's no obligation on behalf of municipal council to embark on an expropriation process or even a court application to declare that road is any wider than what it is through carriage path and maintenance area.
Okay, thank you very much, John.
So, we get a motion
We'll make a motion to receive.
to receive, okay?
With my motion to receive, I'd like that document passed on to the new council on December 5th.
Okay, yeah,
I'll second that.
second to Carol. Okay, all in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much, yeah.
Thank you, Council, and good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we going into the correspondence for information? Anybody want to pull anything out here, or shall we have one motion to receive them?
Motion to receive.
Okay. Seconder? Councillor Lambshead, all in favor? It's passed. Correspondence for action. Municipality of Grey Highlands increased speeding fines. Motion, please.
Motion to receive.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Franzen, all in favor. Motion is carried. Bylaws, Jesse.
Thank you. Through you. There was one bylaw on today's agenda that didn't have a public meeting or corresponding staff report, and that's B 2022-98, which is a zoning bylaw amendment for file 2224. A public meeting was held on September 6, 2022, and was supported by council, and approval was deferred pending the delivery of the registered reference plan.
And we don't need a motion for this. Thank you. And we do need a motion for removal of the holding provision for file for Johnson, 1923.
Support moving the whole.
Okay. I almost got it. Councillor Armstrong. And you have to be your window first. All in favor? Carried. Zoning bylaw amendment for file 2224 for Cheshire.
Could I ask for a bit of explanation about this one? I didn't really understand what the background on this was.
This is a zoning bylaw amendment. The file had a public meeting on September 6th. And at the time, there wasn't a reference plan prepared. So council supported the zoning bylaw amendment, but deferred the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment until that reference plan was received. And I believe planning staff are now in receipt of that. And have the
Great.
zoning bylaw amendment to move forward.
Perfect, thank you. Then motion to approve.
Okay,
Second motion.
and seconded by Terry Ramsden. All in favor? Motion is carried. Notices of motion, none. Information, liaison reports from external boards. Do we have any? Nope. Other information items. I'm here to let you know that we are doing, once again, the Santa Claus Parade. This is the poster which I have passed around, and I'm requesting support of council. Now, at this point, we probably don't need any funds, but it would not be a bad idea to ask for $500 in case. Yes, Jesse.
For you, the procedure bylaw does not allow the direction of any action by staff or any motions during information items.
Okay. So then what do I do to bring us through to the next meeting?
No motion.
Okay. The other one, I had a question from Mr. Lazarus, I believe his name is, and he has a piece of property and he's looking at why the holdup is with his. Now, I spoke to Dawn about this and she suggested I go to the building department, and I did, and there wasn't anybody up there. But I will after this meeting, and then tomorrow when we're here for county council, I'm going to bring it up to county as well. But this person apparently has had a lot of approvals from the township, but the county is holding him back. And he has a piece of property that has 7 or 8 old cottages on it that he wants to redo, build a house at the end of the point. And yes,
Point of order, I'm not sure we should be discussing a specific file at council. I think there are lots of active files in the queue, but I'm not sure we should be picking out any one of them and discussing it at council.
well, he just asked me yesterday, this morning, if I could bring it up. So
And I
anyway,
think
I
it's
will.
appropriate to bring up with staff, but not at council.
We have supported this
Before.
previously.
Okay, so anyway, the name is Santa Claus Parade. We've done. Okay, anybody else?
I
So
just
then-
wanted to make a comment. I was at the Truth and Reconciliation session in Buckhorn on the 30th in the evening. It was a very well done presentation. They had 3 speakers. They had somebody that sang, and it was very entertaining and it was very well done. And it was a good crowd.
Okay,
I think it's a great group.
so then I can't even ask for our help with any departments or anything else at this point. So then I will have a notice of motion for the next meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we need to have a motion to go into close, please. Thank you. Councillor Lamprecht and Deputy Mayor Windover. All in favor? Motion is carried. Motion to rise from close, please. Okay, Deputy Mayor Windover, Councillor Franzen, all in favor? Thank you. Business arising from the closed meeting. There's nothing there, it's just information.
Wait just a minute.
Okay, motion to, for Councillor Lambshead and Deputy Mayor Windover, all in favor? Confirming bylaw, motion to approve the confirming bylaw. Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Franzen, all in favor?
Yeah, had it.
He didn't know that yet. Motion to adjourn.
Hey.
Hey, I'm off to the vet. Deputy Mayor Windover and Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. All in favor? Motion is carried.